You're listening to Nurture Your Zest. I'm your host, Ashleigh King, and I will introduce you to a wealth of interesting, fascinating individuals from all walks of life who will share their stories, how they've overcome challenges, and you will find out their top tips for success. Through this podcast, you can gain tips to grow and change your life and the way you see the world, and help you to nurture your zest. Hello everyone, welcome to Nurture Your Zest. I am stoked today because I am joined by someone that I really look up to. Today I have Kay Greyson in the studio with me, who is a super cool young and upcoming rapper, spoken word artist, performer, just an all-round incredible girl. And I'm so happy to have you here. So Kay, would you like to tell us about yourself?
Hi everybody. I'm Kay Greyson. I'm a rapper. I'm from Newcastle upon Tyne. I'm 21 years old, and I guess that's me.
And Kay, how did you get into rapping and music?
So I started rapping when I was about 6 years old. My dad, he's a musician, and he'd always play music around the house, and my mum's really into music, but my older brothers, they're rappers as well, and or were like into rap. And I started to sort of copy them, and I wanted to be like them, and then my brother, he got an Eminem album, and I heard it and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. I want to be like this, so I started like that.
So looking up as a kid, as a young person, was Eminem one of your role models, or did you have a whole bunch of other rappers that you loved?
I think like Eminem was like the start. It was like the first rapper I'd ever heard, and I was like, wow. And then I got obsessed with it, and I started listening to like Kanye West, 50 Cent, Tupac, all these different rappers, like just the classics really. And I fell in love with it.
Awesome. And I so agree. And I love that about rap. Actually, it's very political at times. Eminem stuff, Tupac can be really, really powerful. Akala as well, actually, is really powerful social commentary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was what I think I gravitated towards that a little bit. Like I was very young, so I didn't understand the world yet, and it was kind of like having like this guide to a world that was underrepresented, and it was like, oh, this all exists, and it doesn't exist around me, but I can see it now, So yeah, it's amazing.
Awesome. So as a young child with a dad really into music, did they spot your musical ability very quickly?
I think my dad was just wanting to nurture a musical ability, whether I had one or not. Like he just really wanted to sort of share. He's a very gifted musician, and he wanted to sort of share his gift to me. And I think the fact that I really enjoyed it just was a bonus.
So what were your first raps about then? Did you kind of rap about, I don't know, making mud pies or like playing with toys, or did you make songs out of everything, or did that come later?
So that kind of came later. When I was first starting out being like 6, I think the only thing I did when I was writing my raps was just imitate. So I would, whatever Eminem was talking about, I would try and write my own version, or like my own version of 50 Cent songs and stuff. And what I would do is I would sometimes take the lyrics of like, say, a 50 Cent song, and then I would write them all out and then just change some words. So it was like my rap. And I did that for like a really long time. That was how I started out before I started to sort of find my own voice. Yeah.
So how was school for you then? So you wanted to be a rapper, or you wanted to do music, but then you had to go and do school and stuff. Did you feel like sometimes that was a hard place to be, or did you find it okay?
I think the way you put that was perfect. I think like, because I was so young, I was like, I wanted to be a rapper, and then it was like, you have to go to school. Like, and I found it really, really difficult, to be honest. Like when I first went to school, like high school, I had trouble with like bullying and things like that. And I just never really felt like I fitted in, because what I wanted to do wasn't on the curriculum. Like there was kids who was like, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that. And what I wanted to be was always sort of undersold. Do you know, it's like, oh, it's not a real career. It's not something, it's a pipe dream. Do you know what I mean? So I found school difficult because of that. And on top of that, like, I was always sort of good in school. Like I had good grades and things like that. And teachers and careers advisors would tell me like, oh, you can go and do this and go and do that. And I'd tell them like, I want to be a rapper. And they're like, what? Like, it's not a thing. And, you know, I think it really sort of drove me more to be like, no, it's not a backup plan. Like, this is what I want to do.
That's cool, because now you actually go into schools. I know you did a documentary with the BBC, which is awesome. How did that come about? And also, what did it feel like to go into schools and have those conversations that weren't happening when you were a kid?
So the BBC documentary came about like a lot of things in my sort of career and life do, like completely randomly. Like I had been at a performance where I was rapping. It was a Frederick Douglass event. And the BBC just happened to be there, and they came up to me and sort of asked me a couple of questions like, what do you do, you know? And I was already doing stuff in the schools at that time, and I told them about it, and then they were like, let's make a documentary. And I was like, yeah, right. Do you know what I mean? And then it happened, and I was like, oh wow, okay, you guys actually want to put something out. But like, as far as going into the schools, that all started because a friend of mine, Kay, he's a rapper and great creative as well, and he was doing it already, and he basically said to me like, you should come into schools and like share your gift. And at first I was reluctant. I was a bit like, oh, I don't really, because I had like sort of not all negative but some negative memories of school. I wasn't sure I wanted to go back, but I think it was because of that where eventually I went, no, if I can go there and stop one kid from feeling like I felt, then it's a positive thing. So yeah.
I think that takes a lot of courage to go back and look at something that was a bit at the time. Yeah. I think that takes huge courage, and that is really inspiring to hear. Thank you. I think as well, it's really nice to hear of your friendship with Kemma. I know you've been friends a long time, so do you want to tell the listeners a bit about what it's like being two upcoming, really cool artists, but you're just the best of friends and you sell out all your shows? So how does that work out?
I think my friendship with Kemma is just a blessing. Like, we've known each other pretty much our whole lives, but it was only like a few years ago where we started like hanging out all the time and things. And we talk about it all the time where it feels like this thing of like, oh, it's like yin and yang. Do you know what I mean? But like, it's positives on both sides. Like it's just amazing that I'm able to do stuff that I do with my friends, and with people that I'm so comfortable with, and like doing shows, and we get to share that success of like when it sells out, it's not just me, it's not just him, it's us, and I think that's worth its weight in gold,
Absolutely. And now you're getting more famous. So how does it feel when like you're getting clothes thrown at you by Machino or all this kind of stuff, and you're getting sponsored to do things, or you have an agent? How do you stay humble?
I think it's, what really helps me stay humble is like my family. Like they always keep me super humble. My mum would never let me go away with the fairies. Like she wouldn't let me do that. Like it's always about sort of, once I do these big gigs and like, these amazing things happen, but then I come home, do you know what I mean? And I have tea with my mum, or like, I'd play a game with my brother. Like it's all about staying connected to your roots and staying connected to your family. And like all my friends as well live around here, and they've known me since I was like a kid. So they don't look at me as like Kay Greyson. It's just Kay. Do you know what I mean? So it helps me stay humble, yeah.
I really like that. Out of interest, so you've got friends and a really supportive family, and that's important. Have you ever had any kind of clingers on as you've started to kind of get more down with the music scene, winning more awards? Have you found that there are some people that kind of start to hang around a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's another thing that I speak with Kemma a lot about. We tend to always say it's like, oh, we've got one mate, I've got you and you've got me. Do you know what I mean? So it's that thing of like, when new people come around, like me and him are always quite skeptical of who's around us, because you do have to be careful at this point. So yeah, I always do that. But to me, I've had the same group of friends since I was so young that I tend to it just doesn't expand. Do you know what I mean? We're so close now. I feel like it would be awkward for anybody more to be involved. So I'm really happy with my group. So I try not to let too many new faces with new promises and new ideas get involved, because it can be really dangerous.
I really love actually your friendship circle because every time I see you perform, and I'm a big fan, there's always some beautiful dancers that I'm big fans of as well. And Igor Tavares has been on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you've got these awesome friends, but actually off stage as well, maybe at a gig, dancing around, you guys can really hit the moves on the floor. So that's really nice to see you having fun as well, and just being, you know, teenagers and not just thinking about the next gig, but actually you know, enjoying yourself. And actually, when I say teenagers, I mean early teens, because I know you're in your 20s now.
Yeah. But no, that's like, I think it's the best thing about it. Like, we're just a group of creatives, you know, who all love different mediums, like dancing, modeling, acting, painting, rapping, whatever it is, like, and we just all support each other. When we have events, we all turn up and, you know, are dancing up until the early morning, like, you know, like, we're always just showing out for each other, and I think it's so important.
That's really special, actually. Yeah, I love that. I want to go back to something you said. So you said that you did a performance at the Frederick Douglass building. So for those who don't know, Frederick Douglass was a slave, and he actually campaigned for slavery to be abolished, and the people of Newcastle paid towards his freedom. So there is a building in Newcastle called the Frederick Douglass building. And it's really important that you said that you'd performed there before, because I wanted to ask you about Fate. So the BBC saw you perform there. It's interesting to me that you performed there, but actually in a couple of months, about 8-9 weeks, you will be doing another very special performance and a talk. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is like a super excited announcement. I've been waiting to like to share. I'm going to be doing a TEDx talk. Like, I want to like scream a little bit, but I'm not going to. So this is something that I didn't even dream of. Do you know what I mean? Because it just seemed so big, you know. And there's so many things that have happened to me in my life where I think, wow, I didn't even think this was going to come to me. I didn't expect this to come to me. I just wanted to write some music and perform it and hang with my friends, you know what I mean? And somehow it's turned into this amazing career where I get to do a TEDx talk. Like, I remember being told, my uncle always used to say to me and my uncle are very close, and he always used to say to me, oh, you talk so much, like, you constantly talking, do you know what I mean? And now, like, he used to say it like it was a positive thing, and I think that's what, because, you know, sometimes kids can be saying, oh, you talk too much, and it's like negative, but he always used to say to me, you talk too much, but it was positive. And I think part of that, I owe a little bit of it to him, because I was like, yeah, and now sort of look where it's got me, and I get to not only speak but also perform my art there, and it's like wow, you know, that's the cherry on top of the cake, you know. So it's brilliant.
Well, as exec producer of TEDx, I am so psyched to have you on our stage, and I know as well that yes, you will be performing, which is awesome. I know that'll be a really special part of the day, but also your story. You know, often when you're doing gigs and stuff, we might not get to hear all about Kay. So I guess in a way this is going to be pretty vulnerable and quite raw, you know, your story from your heart. And that's a really unique experience not many people would normally get to hear. So I'm really excited to see what we can curate together. And yeah, I'm so excited to hear about your story, and I know others will be too.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to, again, Kemma about this, where he said, like, a lot of people know your music, but not a lot of people know you, you know, and there's like lots of things to me that people don't know about. And I think just being able to share that will give like even especially the young people I work with just an opportunity to go, oh wait, no, my life is a little bit like that, or to see the similarities and realize that, you know, anybody can achieve these things. It's just about determination, you know, and not letting the hard times stop you, you know. So yeah.
I actually met a spoken word artist the other night, a really young girl. She's still in school. I don't remember her name, but she was at the Cocoa Charity International Women's Day event. And I was chatting to her because she was saying she's a spoken word artist. And I said, do you know Kay? And she said, wow, I love Kay. I'm such a big fan. Kay came to my school and she's inspired me to get into rapping and get into writing, and it's really helped me. And I thought that was so powerful, because having a space to channel your thoughts and your feelings, especially as a young person, around 14 and above, or just around that time, it's a really difficult time. There's a lot of angst, there's a lot of pressure nowadays, living up to what the magazines say, or Instagram, or social media, or labels, and all this kind of stuff. I was so inspired by what she said. She was like, yeah, Kay got me into spoken word. This is awesome.
That's so amazing to hear. I just love hearing stuff like that. Yeah.
And it's also, reflecting on what you said about your time at school, just hearing that, you've gone into a school, but someone thinks, wow, this could be a career option for me. I think that's so awesome. I'd love to know, how do you come up with your rhymes or writing, and also what kind of skills have you learned? So you were mentioning that actually some people maybe look down at you at school like, oh, yeah, you're going to be a rapper. Yeah, sure. What does that mean? But actually now you've got this beautiful career in front of you. So what other skills have you learned? What do you feel, what other performance elements are there to rapping that you can learn so much about?
So with sort of coming up with my raps, when I was younger, I would imitate a lot. So I really made an effort when I got a little bit older to put my life experiences into my raps and really focus on telling my story, because I think that's what can help people. And I think the important part of telling your story, and I say this to the kids all the time, is like, it's not about something fantastical. It's not about the most amazing thing that happened to you. It's about the day-to-day thing. Do you know what I mean? And that is what is going to connect with people. And like skills I've learned through rapping, like I always think to myself, like, where would I be if I didn't start rapping, Because when I was younger, I was such a nervous kind of kid. I wasn't like out there talking to people. I would never volunteer myself. I remember I went to a Christian primary school, and there used to be this thing where you would stand up in assembly and you would sing, or you would go and talk. And I was terrified. I was like, if that happened to me, I would just melt. You know what I mean? But like now, like that's my entire career, is like standing up and speaking or singing or rapping, And it's just, always, when I think about that, I just know how like far I've came in this period of time, because like it's given me confidence, it's made me articulate, it's made me like all these things that I don't think I would have been without it. I feel like I would have been quite a timid person if I didn't find this, and it's made me able to collaborate with people and things like that. So it's just great.
I think there's a lot of skills there, that people don't realize, like even developing empathy, when you're rapping, you also have to think on your feet and think how you can reach people and reach your audience. Time management, you've got very short windows. Yeah. Also, before you had an agent, I know you have an agent now, but before you had an agent, trying to juggle your diary and performances and negotiating amounts and how much you should get paid, that kind of stuff. I mean, there's so many skills there.
It's like administrative skills. Do you know what I mean? Like I definitely gained a lot of those. Like I didn't, like, because there's no once I left school and I knew I wanted to take on this career, there wasn't any like class I could go to or anything that would teach me how to write an invoice or send a proper email or, just ride the bus and get to places that I've never been before and, navigate cities I've never been in before when you're on a time constraint as well. So there's so many things that I've picked up, like not even realizing it. And then like until I go and speak to somebody else and they're like, oh, well, how do you know how to do that? And it's like, well, I'm a rapper. Do you know what I mean? And it just, again, it makes me sad that it was so discredited in school, because I was like, imagine if I'd have stopped because of that. Like I never would have had any of this. So no, it's one of them like great things. Yeah.
I'm a huge poetry fan, and what I love about rap or spoken word is just the poetry of it. I love the work that goes into it and the way the words dance off your soul. For me, that's really, I love it. But I also love as well that, you have a very unique attitude to life. So you're very positive and upbeat, and you kind of laugh a lot. And I love that. Do you feel like that's been something that's helped you through maybe the challenges of starting out? I mean, not everyone's going to make it, right? Do you feel that maybe that optimism and just giving willingness to try stuff has been part of that?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I remember when I was like leaving school, and it was kind of like a tough time for me, and I'd had like a lot of hardships in my personal life at the same time, and I was just like, oh man, everything's really getting on top of me here, you know, and I didn't really know where I was going to go or what I was going to do. And you know, you get societal pressures as well, because like all my friends were doing their A-levels or going off to university, and I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do, you know? And I feel like that's when I've always been a positive person, but I feel like that's when I fully adopted this attitude of like, you have to be happy where you are. You know, I think people spend a lot of time focusing on where they're going next or what the plan is, you know, and it's like, no, you just have to be happy where you are. And like, I'm always laughing, I'm always smiling at things, you know. The worst thing can happen, and it's like, listen, if you laugh, then it can't be that bad. Do you know what I mean? And I think I picked that up purely like through going through hard times and knowing that if you're positive, you can be the light. You know, you don't have to always look for the light. You can be the light, you know. So yeah, I think that's where that came from. Yeah.
That's beautiful. If you're positive, you can be the light. I love that. I also love that old saying, you know, be the radiator, not the drain. You know, and light people up, leave them remembering you and better than you found them.
Yeah.
So I really love that. I'd love to ask, do you ever get people recognizing you now, and how do you cope with that? Do you find it weird?
It's like I always say to my friends, my favorite 3 words are you, Kay Greyson. Like, that's my favorite 3 words. Like, it never gets any less amazing. Like, when people come up to me in the street now and they're like, oh, you Kay Greyson, are you that rapper? Or, you know what I mean? The only thing that gets me now is I have so many places to be, and I feel so bad when I can't stop and speak to people for like as long as they want to speak to me, you know, or take a picture or whatever. So like, I'm always like going someplace or catching a train. So like, I've been wearing my hat because I'm like, oh, if they don't see me, then it's fine. Do you know what I mean? But like, I get like recognized a little bit now, and it's just so exciting. It's so nice, you know, to get that recognition in my own hometown, you know, of people going, oh, you know, they're so excited to see me that they want to speak to me. Is like, that's amazing.
I love that. And I love that you're getting that recognition, especially since you've been rapping for a while now.
Yeah.
And I want to ask, actually, so you've won lots of awards and you've just had some awesome news. So can you tell us a little bit about your kind of Journal Culture Awards and also your recent accolade with the songwriting grant?
So the Culture Awards was super unexpected. Like, to win Newcomer of the Year was like, oh wow, you know, 2019 was such a big year for me, and for that to be recognized on such a large stage, and again for me to be able to perform at the awards as well, was like, this is just awesome. So I took home the award that night, but like part of the award was like being able to perform as well. So that was great, and you know, it was one of my first statues to be able to put on to, you know, I gave it to my mom so she can keep it. And yeah, and like most recently I won the Alan Hull Award for songwriting, which came along with a grant as well, you know. So it was just one of them things where to be recognized for my songwriting just meant so much to me, because lyrics is where this all started, you know, me being able to write out my feelings and my emotions about things. And, you know, and even if that emotion is just wanting to be cool, you know, like every kid feels, you know, being able to be that person in the verse was like something that I really got into. And, you know, it's just grew as my life went on into something like, you know, it's catharsis, it's everything. And for them to recognize me out of all the amazing songwriters that are in the Northeast, you know, like that was just sensational.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. That is such good news and so well deserved. And I really hope, I know myself as a creative and a freelancer and working with lots of other creatives, one of the hardest things is just having the money to do the stuff you love. And it can be really difficult, and you can see a lot of people struggling. So I'm super stoked that you've got some cash to support you as you write. Because gigs are great, but it's between the gigs that can be tough.
That can be really tough.
Yeah.
It can be really, really tough, especially when you don't have like, a backing. Like, I think some people have things to turn back on and it's easier, you know what I mean? But I'm so young and, it's not something I have. So to be given that is like, it's just beautiful, yeah.
Absolutely. Kay, do you have any tips for anyone wanting to start out in spoken word, in rap, in poetry? What would you like to tell your younger self?
I would definitely tell my younger self that all this time you're spending just writing and, plugging away at the same thing, that's not wasted time. Looking at a song and saying, oh, well, this song isn't good. It's like, yeah, well, you've got one of your bad songs out the way. Do you know what I mean? You're so much closer to your great song. Do you know what I mean? And that was similar to something that Ed Sheeran had said and that just really stuck with me. And, I think I would definitely say, like, one of the main tips I would give to rap artists and spoken word artists is just to tell your truth. Do you know what I mean? And look at, like, every piece you put together and every song you put together as a conversation with the audience. What do you want to tell them in the conversation? And then once you know that, you'll be able to write anything, because whatever you write, it belongs to you. No one can come along and say, oh, no, that's not good. It's like, no, this is my conversation, and it's like about owning that, and then it becomes your thing, so that would be a tip I would give.
I love that. And I love that sense of owning your space and almost that legacy that you're leaving for yourself and your fans. That's really cool. Yeah. So I would like to know, would you like to have a conversation with our audience today?
Yeah, of course.
So, okay. So we'd love to hear a little bit of rap. You can say whatever you want. I don't know how you do it, so I'm just going to leave that in your hands. But what I do want to ask before you do that is, have you ever found a time where maybe you didn't feel included or discriminated against? Or you mentioned in school that was kind of hard sometimes, especially because of what you wanted to do. But did you ever feel like on the outside, not really knowing how to fit in?
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of my life, I've felt like that. When I was in school, obviously I was doing this career that wasn't, what I was expected to do. And that sort of set me on the outside of things, And then, like, where I was growing up, in the area I grew up in, it was like, racially I was sort of different to everybody else. It wasn't a very diverse area when I was growing up. And it did sort of leave me on the outside. People were making connections and, just being kids. And for me, there was always an element of, oh, it's them and then it's me, or like me and my brother, and that was like really difficult because you just want to be part of things. That's like a very human thing, and then even when I started rapping, like being a woman, do you know what I mean? And like being in these spaces which are so male dominated, and you sort of have to walk in and be like, no, this is me, but then you sort of think how easy it must be for someone who is already a part of those spaces to enter them. Like, felt like I was breaking down the door, so I think now I sort of see it as a positive thing in a sense, like, oh, it's made me that much stronger, but I did spend a large portion of my life just feeling on the outside of things, yeah.
I think that's really interesting to hear. And even what you said there about being a woman. So, I mean, do you find, we've just had International Women's Day, there's all this cool stuff going on. But also from another perspective, we've got a lot of people nowadays who identify as non-binary, they don't follow a particular gender, or just the frustration of labels generally. Do you find this to be a bit of a pain sometimes in that male-dominated environment, like pushing your way through, or do you feel like it's getting better?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 50-50. It depends on the space, I think now more than ever there's like whole spaces that are designed for, women and for, non-binary people and like people of all, different like lifestyles, where they can feel included, they can feel a part of things, and where it is set up like purely for them, which is like, I think is taken for granted by, men and things like that, where it's like, you don't realize it, but this space is completely set up for you. Do you know what I mean? And then once like, they don't realize that until spaces that are set up purely for women or purely for non-binary people or transgender people are set up, and then they realize, oh, this whole time it's been, it's been just for me. So I think now that's a really positive thing, because that just didn't exist before, but I think that there is still ways to go to make it so that it is equal, because that is what it has to be. And I think that's what we should strive for it to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's those spaces that are inclusive, but it always makes me laugh how many people just don't see colour or disability or gender or any of these things, and there's just no problem at all. And you think, where are you hiding? Like, what world are you living in? It drives me insane. I see this all the time, and I think that's for me why I always want to work with and support artists and creatives who I see don't always have that same opportunity, which is awesome, and I get to work with some amazing artists. And I know we're both big fans of Harambe Pasadena, which is an awesome Afrofusion festival that we have both been involved in many times. So here's to many more opportunities of working with cool creatives.
100%.
Absolutely. I'm very mindful of the time, so I've got two things to ask. Before you start your little intro or discussion with our audience, however you want to do it, I just want to ask our final question, which I love to ask. What is your number one word to nurture your zest?
It is great because it rhymes. So to nurture my zest, I rest.
Oh, I love that. That has made me smile big time because I do not rest enough. So I love that. I'm gonna
major key.
Okay, I love that. Okay, you take it away, Kay.
Oh, is that Kay? Yeah, I'm back in this place. So why don't you say that right in my face? Everybody's trying to get a bite of my cake, but anything you want from me, gotta come take. Wait, I think you need a break. This side of K-Stay, res red steak. Whack rappers that was having the best day till I came through to see him like, hey girl, hey. All on the sideline screaming, girl, slay. And I tell him okay, because I never know nobody come and get in my way. Get in my way? You could never get up on a stage if I get it my way, and I get it my way. Catch me getting my pay, but that don't matter. I ain't gonna be a little cash flash rapper. Got a little money, but I'm that flash rapper. Hey, they should ban that rapper. Album coming, we just gotta go and get the masters. Then I'm your master. I scrape rappers off of plaques and you're gonna need a plaster. Catch her, never doing what they ask her.
I love it. I love it. My smile is so big. Thank you so much. That's definitely nurtured my zest. I love a bit of music and a bit of... I just love that. That was just so free-spoken creativity. Thank you so much for nurturing my zest and the audience as well.
Yes.
And for coming on the show.
Of course. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Nurture Your Zest. You can find us online on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn at Nurture Your Zest. If you've liked today, please subscribe. You can also leave us a review if you're feeling extra kind. Today's podcast has been made available through the kind sponsorship of TL Multimedia and That Branding Company. We look forward to catching up with you again soon as you learn to nurture your zest.